So let's try to solve this problem that Russell has brought up. Problem is what has to do with whether or not we can actually ever praise or blame conduct. Whether we can actually hold anybody responsible for what they have done in any sense. If determinism is true, and he says that it is true, it seems that that is a threat to our ability to do so. Now, when we say that an action is right, or when we say that it is wrong, according to Russell's theory, we logically imply that goods or bads, depending on how we've judged it, result from those actions. Because conduct is only right or wrong in relation to the goods and bads that are produced by that conduct. That's one logical implication, one thing that's in place. The other thing that's in place is that the actor could have done otherwise. That is, that they made some sort of choice. That is, that if we praise an action, we say that the action is right because it produced good effects, but we also imply that the person could have done otherwise, and it was praiseworthy that they didn't do otherwise. If we condemn an action and say that it's bad, we say that it produced, if we say that it's wrong, excuse me, not bad. If we say that it's wrong, that it produced bad effects, but we also imply that the person could have acted otherwise. Let's think of that person running out of the burning building and not warning anybody. Let's say they're panicked, just blind fear, and they are just absolutely determined in their actions by that fear, and they never give a thought as a possibility of action to warning anybody. Can we actually condemn them? Russell says, well, of course. I mean, we must be able to, right? I mean, because what they did was bad, and they should have acted differently. But if no other possible course of action occurred to them, then how could they have acted differently? And how can we actually say that they acted wrongly? Let's take a look at what he says on this is in section 27. He says, there is thus a sense in which it must be possible to think of an action if we are to hold that it is objectively wrong not to perform the action. There is also, if determinism is true, a sense in which it is not possible to think of any action except those which we do think of. So the person is running out of the burning building, and they don't think of any other possibilities, other possible courses of action, like warning somebody. So there's a sense in which it must be possible that they could have thought otherwise, and there's a sense in which it wasn't possible that they could have thought otherwise. That they're determined in their actions. He continues, but it is questionable whether these two senses of possibility are the same. A man who finds that his house is on fire may run out of it in a panic without thinking of warning the other inmates, but we feel, rightly or wrongly, that it was possible for him to think of warning them, in a sense in which it was not possible for a prosaic person to think of a lyric poem. That's reference to some earlier things that he said. It may be that we are wrong in feeling this difference, and that what really distinguishes the two cases is dependence upon past decisions. That is to say, we may recognize that no different choice among alternatives thought of at any time would have turned an ordinary man into a good lyric poet, but that most men, by suitably choosing among alternatives actually thought of, can acquire the sort of character which will lead them to remember their neighbors in a fire. It seems to be Russell's solution to the problem. That is, it may be that the person running out of the burning building and not warning anybody really couldn't have acted otherwise. But why not? Well, because they didn't think of the other possibilities, like taking some time to warn the other human beings in the burning building. But why did those other possibilities not occur to them? Well, really because of their character. And we should probably be reading Aristotle at this point, because Russell is just really taking the Aristotelian route to the solution here. So let's follow it out. He continues, and if a man engages in some useful occupation, of which a natural effect is to destroy his nerve, we may conceivably hold that this excuses his panic in an emergency. In such a point, it would seem that our judgment may really be dependent on the view we take as to the existence of free will, for the believer in free will cannot allow any such excuse, but Russell does, right? That is, it may be that at the moment that he's running out of the burning building, the man really has no choice. But why doesn't he have any choice? Well, because of his character. But what is his character determined by? His previous choices. He says a little bit further on, thus it would seem that there is no sense in which it is possible to think of some actions, which in fact we do not think of, but impossible to think of others, except the sense that the ones we regard as possible would have been thought of if a different choice among alternatives actually thought of had been made on some previous occasion. That is, that we are, to a certain extent, the possibilities that are open to us in our actions are the result of our characters, and our characters are determined by our previous choices, our previous choices between possibilities. This is actually something that was said by Aristotle, that is that, there's a certain sense in which what appears good to us is not under our control at any given time, but what appears good to us is the result of our previous actions which form our character. What Russell seems to be saying is that the person who runs out of a burning building at the moment they run out of it couldn't have done otherwise. But we believe that it was open to them at a previous occasion to make choices that would have resulted in a state of character in which it would have occurred to them to actually warn other people. So Russell believes, on the one hand, that the rightness of our conduct depends upon us making the best choice of possible alternatives in a given situation. That is, the choice that will result in the most goods. And there is one sense in which whatever we do choose is the choice that we had to make. However, the range of possible alternatives which do or do not occur to us at any given time, in reference to any given action, are to some extent a result of our previous choices. So that if it turns out that we had no choice, that we just simply acted and had no choice in our actions, that we are still responsible for that because our state of not having a choice, one might say, is a result of previous choices. I think that that is more or less the solution that Russell offers. And we'll do one more little talk on this section, maybe clear some